Hello there. That was not a great slide. That was definitely like a 6 out of 10 on the slide scale. I'm very excited today. A little bit nervous, but also mostly excited. We have some things to do that will either be very good or also very, very bad. And I think either way, we're gonna have a good time. One of the ongoing series that has sort of happened by accident on this channel has been trying strange internet coffee hacks. We have looked at TikTok coffee hacks, we have looked at 5-minute crafts coffee hacks, and I think it's just kind of fun once in a while to do kind of a scour of the internet and see what's out there, see what sort of strange information and or videos and or things people are doing with coffee. Not unlike this channel in and of itself. As we near the holiday season, and actually frankly we are kind of in the midst of it right now, I thought it would be fun to do kind of a casual video today to test out some things to find out whether these things are good or bad. So today we have 4 internet coffee hacks that we're gonna look at. These are from TikTok and also from several blog posts as well. So we have a little bit of some varied sources today, and if you wanna see any of the original hack videos and or blog posts, they will be linked down in the bio. The description. Anyways, let me give you a little bit of an overview of our plan of attack today. We're gonna be starting out with testing whether you can actually use a paper towel in place of a coffee filter. We are then gonna be practicing milk steaming, but instead of using milk and espresso for your latte art practice, we are gonna be using soap and soy sauce, ? Moving on, we have an orange-based beverage to try. I don't really know how to describe it better than that, so we'll leave it there. And then lastly, we are gonna try to make espresso using a French press. That's what's on the docket. I'm very excited. I'm very nervous. I think you are probably too at this point. So I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'm gonna go grab all the equipment we need, which is sitting off to the side, and I'll be right back. I want to give a huge thank you to Trade Coffee for sponsoring today's video. It's hard to believe that December is already here, and with it, the frantic gift shopping for the holidays. Have no fear though, because you can check even the hardest to shop for off your list with a personalized coffee subscription from Trade. Trade is a service that makes it easy to discover new coffees from top-rated roasters all over the US, and you can even set the frequency to fit your exact needs and schedule. I've been working with Trade for a while now and have shown you all sorts of coffees from them, but today I'm brewing the Hairbender blend from Stumptown, a roaster local to my own city of Portland. This is just one of the wide offerings they have, but if that's not up your alley, then don't worry, because Trade has a huge variety of flavor profiles, blends, and roast levels. There's sure to be something for anyone from the casual coffee drinker to the brewing enthusiast. So if you're ready to treat yourself or the coffee lover in your life with Trade, right now Trade is offering $30 off a subscription and access to limited holiday specials at drinktrade.com/MDC. That's drinktrade.com/MDC or the top link in my bio. And thank you again to Trade for sponsoring today's video. Hack number 1 comes from the website shopblends.com, and the actual title of this article is called Brilliant Coffee Hacks. I was scrolling through this, and all the way down at the very bottom at number 13, it says use a paper towel or napkin in place of a coffee filter. The copy reads, if you run out of coffee filters, don't worry. Simply use a paper towel or napkin in place of your filter. I thought we should try that. Now, this is not the Black & Decker that we usually use as the sacrificial coffee machine. This is actually a coffee machine that I very much love and use on a fairly regular basis. It's the Bonavita brewer. It's great. Enough about that though. The coffee filter usually uses something like this. This is a nice, pretty standard flat bottom filter. It works great and it brews really nice coffee. Because of how much I use this, I do generally run out of these occasionally. I'm pretty good about reordering, but let's say for the sake of this experiment that we forgot to reorder filters and we need to use something else. In comes these. I'm a little bit at a loss on how to fashion a filter out of these paper towels to fit into this flat bottom basket. The article itself did not give any instructions, so we're gonna have to kind of arts and crafts this just a little bit. We need to find a way to enclose pretty much this entire section with the paper towel, but I don't want it to be too thick because we still need extraction of some sort to happen. So I think I'm gonna start by breaking this into a smaller section and placing it at the bottom. Mostly what I wanna make sure I don't do is encase the bottom too much. We're gonna go a little bit further with this. We're gonna draw around the base this brewer, try to cut out a piece of this paper towel that is roughly the same size as the bottom. Go a little bit wider just to ensure we don't get any actual Sharpie into our brew bed. That sounds like a less than stellar drinking experience. This is my circle. I have a sneaky suspicion that we might be able to make this kind of work. I know James did a video a while back where he attempted to make coffee without the use of any brewing equipment, and I remember paper towels were a topic of discussion that came up. So I feel like if we fashion this at least somewhat correctly, could be in a pretty decent place. My main fear is that this paper towel is gonna fully disintegrate, and then we're gonna have both paper and grounds in our final brewed coffee, We have our coffee filter at the bottom, which all in all, it's pretty decent. Now we do need to make sure that we enclose these sides, as this is ultimately gonna have coffee in the base and then it is gonna fill with water. When that happens, we wanna make sure that the coffee doesn't have any opportunity to leak around the edges of our makeshift filter and then filter down into our final brewed coffee. I'm not really sure how to go about this. I think I'm gonna start by cutting strips. I think I need 3 strips for this. And then we're actually gonna tape these together, very slightly overlaying them, taping them together into a nice shape that mimics something like the walls of a coffee filter. We're gonna try our best to attach it to the base of what we've created. This is so much more work than just going and purchasing new coffee filters from the store. However, if it actually does work, I'm going to feel so incredibly accomplished. And I am sure many of you in the comments are already having thoughts about a better way that I could do this. And if you have one, I'm more than welcome to hearing you out. This, however, seems to make the most sense in this current scenario. Okay, we almost have enclosed our filter. Okay. All in all, you know, this doesn't look so dissimilar to something like this. So, pending this being able to actually fit in here, which it does, with a little bit of finagling, we might have to trim the top a little bit actually. While the sides of our filter certainly do not sit flush with the walls of the actual basket, due to the tape, I think everything is pretty well sealed in there. So let's go add some coffee. So I have 30 grams of ground coffee, just like I would for this brewer on any other day. That goes in there. And now we have that, which is gonna go in here. Okay, water in. And now we tenuously wait to see what's gonna happen. Purely based on the noise this is making, I know we are almost done brewing. And I certainly see what looks to be coffee coming out of the bottom. The question, I think, right now is how much of that is liquid coffee and how much of that is ground coffee. Maybe the answer is there is no ground coffee in there. And if that is so, I think this was a pretty successful hack. But let's see, let me go grab the lid so we can pour out of the carafe. First things first, looking inside, it's very hard to tell. There's certainly what looks to be liquid that is the color of the coffee I'd expect. I think we need to actually look in here. We'll wait on pouring. That'll be the next step. Carefully remove this. This is how it came out. So you can see we have some folding around this edge, which happened because this wasn't the filter, that is, wasn't flush with the walls of the basket. Up here, there's a brew head. There are multiple holes where the water disperses over the coffee. And it appears that the water kind of caught on this side and dragged it down rather than just falling over the coffee. So that is somewhat to be expected and very explainable. However, beyond that, it does appear that our coffee is pretty well contained. I'm gonna try to lift this. Note, it doesn't really lift. We've definitely had some splitting of our filter, especially on the areas where there was tape, just due to how hot and how damp this all inevitably got. Time for tasting. Upon first glance, I'm not seeing any coffee grounds in there. We might have to dig into the carafe a little bit just to see if anything settled at the bottom rather than pouring out initially, but it doesn't look too bad. If anything, I'm expecting this to be a little bit French press-like. I'm expecting a little bit of chew to this. It's not an awesome cup of coffee. This brewer has certainly made me many better cups of coffee. It's definitely a bit under extracted. This is certainly, I think, even by just the color of this, that you can tell a pretty weak cup of coffee. Texture wise, pretty decent. This is better than I was hoping. Now, I am curious how many grounds are in here that perhaps got caught at the bottom. Let's see. I'm gonna very carefully pour this into something else over to the side. I've transferred our coffee. I can see now at the bottom, now that we've removed our coffee, there are some grounds here inside. You can visually see that there are some pieces of ground coffee in there. Now those are very, very large pieces. So instead of like a French press where you might just have fines in there that make the cup a little bit more chewy, these would probably disrupt your drinking experience a little bit. These are pretty sizable. You would probably have a little bit of crunch rather than chew to your cup of coffee. That being said though, there are far less grounds than I was expecting given our makeshift filter scenario. With this hack, I would tentatively say this kind of works. I would not give it a great score, but I think if you are in a very, very desperate situation for coffee and there was absolutely no chance that you could find any sort of filter and you were really, really dead set on making a cup of filter coffee rather than like, I don't know, like making a cupping bowl and and just drinking that, I think you could get away with this. So I suppose on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this interesting hack a 6. It kind of works, and for that I need to give it points. However, the end result isn't awesome. It is just merely passable. So 6 out of 10 for this one. Now our next hack actually comes to us from our friends at Golden Brown Coffee. They are based out of Melbourne. They are really lovely and they make some really lovely TikTok content. So recently they posted a video called Cursed Soy Latte. We are not talking soy milk. Let's watch it. Okay, so the idea of this is to reduce milk waste when you are practicing latte art. For practicing latte art, it is kind of inevitable that you will be creating waste because you're using espresso and milk, and unless you are drinking every single latte you are pouring, which I don't recommend that, you are inevitably tossing it out. So there are some substitutions out here, and what they are proposing is a substitution where you use a little bit of soap, like a dishwasher or like cleaning detergent, in with water as your milk substitute, and then you use soy sauce as your espresso substitute. And in theory, you should have a pretty close approximation of something you can pour latte art with and something that'll look like latte art at the end. I have all the ingredients that we need. I've got soap, I have soy sauce, I have some pitchers. Additionally, I have a cup and some water. So let's see if we can sort this out. I think I will opt for a slightly larger pitcher today. We're going to fill our pitcher just like we would with milk. So I'm gonna go right under kind of this like spout line area, just like I would with milk. Not to be redundant like I usually am. So I am gonna leave a little bit of space just like I would with milk, because in theory, we're adding air to our water and our soap mixture. So we will be creating a foam of some sort. Now that foam will be bubbles rather than nice milk foam. However, it will expand and we will need to have some space allotted for that. I think the key here is we are adding only a drop, just a tiny bit. Just gonna add some soy sauce, just roughly the amount that you would have for espresso. We've added soy sauce. A funny fact about soy sauce and coffee and me is that there is footage out there of me, branded footage for like a campaign that I did a long time ago, where I'm actually drinking a cup of coffee that secretly is just soy sauce. I was on the site of a video shoot, and during that video shoot, because of how long it went, we actually ran out of coffee. We were out of ground coffee and brewed coffee, and we had like 3 more shots we needed to get before the end of the day. I remembered a food staging video I'd seen at one point that had said that soy sauce and hot water will work to imitate the appearance of coffee pretty well, and so that's what we did. And so there is footage of me drinking soy sauce and hot water and a dash of cream and smiling and looking really, really pleasant about it. And I will let you all guess what brand that was. Let us go over to the espresso machine. Let's try this out. First things first, open up our steam wand briefly. Now it's time to steam. Added air, and then incorporated just like we would with anything else. Texture-wise, we certainly have something that looks a lot like milk. Now, that, in my opinion, certainly looks like latte art. Can you practice your latte art with just soap and soy sauce and a steam wand? The answer is a resounding yes. Now, I will say a spoiler alert, I have seen this hack used many, many times. This is a trick that latte artists have used for a very long time. It's a very, very good way to reduce the waste of milk and espresso, and surely it does work. So this hack is most certainly a 10 out of 10, easily. I'm having the thought that I should take a sip of this. Handing me a latte or having me hold a latte, my gut instinct is to drink it, at least a little bit of it. I'm having to remember that this is not actually a really lovely latte like it looks, but actually just soapy water and soy sauce. So there is a little bit of disappointment involved in this hack, but it does work. Let's move on to our next one, which I am slightly more apprehensive about. And actually, I'm moving this and it's kind of interesting. You can see inside the pitcher that as this foam starts to break down, it really like reconstitutes like back out into just water and soap. But for a brief moment after you finish steaming, you're able to use it as milk. It's very cool. Our third hack slash coffee thing of the day is going to be a drink build video. I think that is the proper way to describe this. This is from TikTok user Dina Kalanta. She has kind of an interesting cup that she's using. So we're starting off with an orange. We are cutting the top out of an orange and it appears like we are hollowing it out. After we have hollowed it out, we are adding what seems to be honey, and then we're blending it together with a milk frother. After that, we have ice. We then have our cold coffee, I'm assuming, and then I think those are mint leaves. Those really, really look like mint leaves. So I would like to make this and I would like to see how this tastes because she makes it look like it is very refreshing. I am apprehensive about the combination of mint and orange, just a tiny bit, but we'll see. So let's get started. I've taken the liberties of hollowing out an orange already, which I will say is a little bit tricky to do. I have some cold coffee in here, some nice cold brew. I have my handy dandy milk frother. I have my mint leaves. And lastly, we have our honey. I have ice, we'll get it out when we need it. First things first, in hollowing out my orange, we ended up with a good deal of liquid still in there, all of that nice orange juice in there, but we also still have a good deal of pulp. I left most of the liquid in there just because that seems pretty vital to the combination of this drink, so let's get some honey in there. And that kind of stands up on its own, so I'm gonna trust it. Very hard to open the honey jar when your hands are sticky with orange juice. We're gonna put in like a healthy drizzle. Oh, that certainly is a healthy drizzle. Okay, maybe we'll stop there. Now comes the part I'm less than excited about. This is a pretty powerful hand frother. This one goes, so just get it in there. Okay, this is not going terribly. I really thought we'd have a disaster on our hands. We have blended, we now have honey and orange juice, a little bit of pulp going on in there. Let me go grab our ice cubes. I'm pretty sure the size of my ice is pretty close to hers. This is not a huge orange, so we are limited in the amount we can put in. I think 2 ice cubes seems like plenty. I'll be honest today, whoa, that almost fell. I'll be honest, the thing that I was most nervous about was actually just whipping up the orange and the honey together in this very small unit with a pretty powerful frother, and that went well, which makes me pretty positive towards the rest of this. So we have our cold coffee. Fill it up to the top. I think I should stir this a little bit. So let's get out the straw we'll be using. And I don't want to spill. I just want to make sure our orange juice and honey and everything is in there. And then she really doesn't specify whether the green leafy thing that she puts on top is mint, but I'm going to assume it is. It looks like it, and that seems to make the most sense. So just pop in a few mint leaves. I will say, this is very cute. If you served me this in a cafe and charged me $15, I might pay that just for how adorable this is. This is not a lot of liquid. This is probably in total maybe 2 ounces of coffee that I was able to fit in here, along with definitely like 1.5 ounces of orange juice, so pretty tight ratio in that sense. Let's have a tiny and hopefully good sip. That's really good. I had a lot of nervousness around this particular drink build. This is really, really stinking good. It's not so much a coffee drink. Honestly, you can hardly taste it with how little coffee you can fit in there. It's a very, very slight bitterness balanced with a nice amount of honey and also a really nice tartness from that orange juice. The mint doesn't do much, at least not right now, in its current like whole leaf state, but it looks really nice. It adds a very nice aesthetic touch. It's a very small drink. You get a couple of sips out of it at most, but it is a very, very tasty drink. This gets a resounding 8 out of 10. I think the assembly of this is kind of tricky. I think if you are not very careful with your milk frother, these can go bad very, very quickly, but taste-wise, the results are good. I'm gonna finish this all. Okay, moving on to our next one. I am currently riding on quite the high of that last one working out so well, but I think this final hack might bring us back down to earth. Pardon any light sounds off to the side. We're currently brewing some water. Heating water, I suppose. We're not brewing it per se. Our fourth and final internet hack for the day is from homegrounds.co. And the title of this article is 23 coffee hacks that will change your life. Now, number 4 is make an espresso shot in a French press. I know, we'll get to it. Let's just read the hack. Want a smooth, rich, and concentrated taste of espresso but can't afford an expensive espresso machine? Common problem, common question. Look no further than your trusty French press. By grinding espresso beans super fine and only pouring enough hot water to submerge the grounds, you can create a fairly good espresso facsimile. Now already they have set you up for somewhat more success than they would have if they just said you were making espresso. We all know that what we will make by combining those things in that matter will not be technically espresso, but if it is something espresso-like, I think that's a pretty solid hack. We talk about making things like espresso without the proper like espresso machine all the time. There are all sorts of brewers out there that kind of like imitate an espresso, and there are also all sorts of like brewers that have additions and like fun little things that can like try to imitate espresso. It's very hard to do it without the machine, but if we can do it in a French press, my mind will be blown. Now you all know I'm also a pretty big fan of the French press and have been since like the beginning of time. I think it is a great like intro into coffee. I also think for what it is incredibly versatile, meaning that you can brew hot coffee with it, you can brew cold brew with it, you can froth milk with it. In general, they are pretty like affordable and accessible from a price point standpoint. I just think they're a nice tool to have in your arsenal. So I have my favorite one right now. Let's try to make some espresso with it. This is my trusty OXO French press, and I love it. One of my favorite things about this is that it has a nice little scoop that you can remove all your ground coffee with once you're done. We need some ground coffee, speaking of that. I have 2 different grind sizes here. They look probably pretty similar on camera, but trust me, they're different. Over here in my left hand, I have coffee that is ground purely for espresso. If I was making espresso on my espresso machine, this is the grind size that I would probably use. Over here to the right, I have coffee that is still ground super fine, but it is slightly coarser than what we have here. This is something that is like on the very, very, very fine edge of drip coffee. Like, you might be able to get away with this in some scenarios with some coffees, but again, this is still very, very fine and significantly finer, of course, than you would ever use in a French press. I have my water heating off to the side. One thing I will note going into this, and the thing that makes me most nervous, even though the idea of just brewing a very, very tight, concentrated amount of espresso seems fine, we have to plunge it because this is a French press. And the filter and like the fine little mesh that we have here, don't know if it's gonna catch everything. Already with French presses, even when you're using the very coarse grind that they call for, you usually get some chew in your coffee, meaning you have fines and like little particulates and little bits of coffee that's floating up into your final brewed coffee that you're drinking. Meaning the mouthfeel is a little bit heavier, a little bit weightier. Some people describe it as chewy. That's how I like to describe it. Some people describe it as like a little sandy. Whatever you want to use, usually there's ground coffee in it. Now, we are not improving that by using a even finer grind. I think there's a very high likelihood that we will have quite a bit of grounds in our final espresso facsimile. But maybe I'm wrong. I have been wrong before, and also I've been wrong today. So I think for this, because we were given very little guidance in the article itself, I think we're gonna try to use a proportion similar to what we might use for an espresso shot. So I have 20 grams of our very finely ground coffee right here. Put that in there, shake it out a little bit. Let's grab our hot water. Thinking in like a 1-to-2 ratio, I'm gonna add 40 grams of hot water, and we'll see if that's enough to just cover the coffee, because that's what the instructions said. Our only real instructions was grind super fine and then add enough hot water just to cover the surface of the coffee. And I'm hoping that's gonna be around 40 grams. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a stir. At this amount, it's a little bit tricky to fully coat everything with water. I went a little bit above. I went to 50 grams. That seems to cover everything and fully saturate it. Like with a French press, we'll put it on our top. We don't really have any guidance of when we need to stop brewing. I'm gonna give this like 2 minutes. That is a completely arbitrary number that I just made up. But we're gonna start with 2 minutes, and then we're gonna see what comes out at the end of that. Our allotted time has passed. Now there's not really a lot of room to plunge, and I think we're just gonna have to do, well, okay, that's actually super funny. By plunging the plunger all the way down, it actually doesn't even touch the bed of coffee that we have because there's so little in here. So we're just gonna have to pour through and see what we have. I don't wanna shake it too much, but that is awfully little liquid. What appears to have happened is that all of the water we poured in merely saturated our grounds, and this is all that was left over. Now, already looking at it, we have some grounds. I need like a shirt that says like, Houston, we have grounds, or something like that. I don't wanna taste it, but we're gonna taste it. That was disgusting, I'm sorry. It's not awesome. It is certified not awesome. There are a lot of grounds in there. That was one big mouthful of coffee that was bitter and frankly awful. So I think we're gonna try this one more time. We certainly need a coarser grind. This will not work with this sort of strainer in a French press. An espresso grind does really nothing. I think we also need a good deal more water. So with those improvements in mind, let's try this again. Now, based on how many grounds were in that last cup of whatever it was that we made, I made the choice to go even more coarse than I initially thought we would have to. So I went and reground some new coffee, another 20 grams. Now I used the Ode Gen 2, and I have it on just like a 1. So as fine as it can get without getting into the espresso territory. We ran into the problem where we had very, very little liquid left over at the end of this. So I think we need to increase our fluid amount by quite a bit. We put in 50 grams. I'm gonna go up to 100 grams. So double what we did before. Give this a little stir, some agitation. I think 2 minutes felt like a decent amount of brewing time. So we're gonna stick with 2 minutes, then we'll see what we have. It has now been 2 minutes. Let's see what we have. We got a little bit of a plunge with that one. It's kind of fun. A little bit of a spill, but certainly a lot more beverage than we had previously. I can already see that we have grounds here on the lip of our spout, which means that there are most certainly grounds in the cup, which is an exciting thing to look forward to on our first sip. Appearance-wise, it does sort of look like espresso. It definitely looks like espresso that has sat out for a little bit, for better or for worse. It smells like coffee. it's just not good. And I don't think that there are very many ways that I can make it good. Frankly, you would be much better off using something like an AeroPress with maybe like a Prismo attachment to make something that is a facsimile of espresso rather than trying your best to squeeze it out of a French press. This hack, I'm giving a 0 out of 10, frankly. For all the good that we have done today, we have unfortunately ended on a low note. That's okay. Sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. And I am full of phrases today that I am not pleased that I'm saying. This was a really fun time and I hope you enjoyed this a little bit. This is probably gonna be the last of this hack trying series for this year. There might be a few more next year, but I'll be honest, we have some really exciting plans for next year, so we will see. For now, I think that's it. I'll see you all next time. My name is Morgan Drinks Coffee. You can find me here on YouTube once a week plus shorts. Additionally, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram almost every single day. I hope you all had a great time today. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and week, and I'll see you next time. I will actually probably see you twice next week. You might see me on Monday as well as Friday, so cheers to that. I'm gonna take this off screen and I am not gonna drink the rest of it today because this is frankly the worst thing I have made in a long time. Till next time, see you later. Bye everyone.